All right, welcome to the monthly AI update, where we try to cover the month of AI news, the ones that you should know for as a small business owner. And we're not covering all of it. There's too much of it, and that's kind of the point. So we cover a couple stories you should know, things you should know about, and then we also answer your questions as well. So I'm Alec Kaufman. I'm the founder of Annovation. Annovation helps small businesses with tech, and I do an event called AI Fridays every week, trying to help you learn AI a little bit better. And then I'll hand it over to John. Introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm John Down. I'm a professor at the University of Portland where I teach entrepreneurship and AI. Great to be here.
Hey everyone, I'm Addie. I am an independent consultant that helps small businesses, nonprofits, and startups with anything AI and data science.
All right. And we are live on LinkedIn, and we are live on YouTube, and we're live on the Annovation Studio as well for those of you joining from the Annovation community. Okay. So, the news today. So first we're going to jump into the AI browser wars. So one of the big pieces of news that came out this month is ChatGPT Atlas. And that's ChatGPT's browser that they launched. And so your browser, that's basically like your Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, any of those. That's your browser. And so what that means is that would be the ChatGPT app that replaces your browser. Perplexity also came out with a browser as well. And so what we're starting to see is sort of these AI browser wars. And Gemini is deeply integrated into Google. Google has Google Chrome. Microsoft Copilot is integrated into Edge, where you have, Microsoft's Copilot. So basically, there's kind of an AI in every browser now. So, what do you guys think of this, and what do you think people should know about when they're thinking about browsers?
Yeah, I think this is, I guess, kind of like an interesting take and kind of moving more towards the idea of like AI just fully replacing traditional search algorithms. Like instead of Googling something or whatever search browser, whatever browser you might use that has like an automatic search at the top, switching that out for the AI product of that browser. So I think, yeah, definitely like more of a play for these large companies to have more integration with their consumers, as well as what kind of every browser is doing from the get-go, which is helping you access the internet, but also like gathering data about what you're doing on the internet, and then eventually using that in whatever they're doing with their products. So yeah, it seems like it's kind of quickly becoming this like bandwagon movement, and these kind of like large proprietary players are trying to get as much of the consumer, kind of everyday consumer segment that they can right now, and try to really kind of push that dominance of like AI search over just traditional web search.
Yeah, and I would say like so many kind of new features that come out with AI, it's obviously early days and it's still, I think they're still kind of working on the value proposition, and they'll find out more about what do people like, what aspects they like of it, what don't seem as good, because at least for me now, I would still just stick with Google, or the other thing that I do a lot is I'm talking to my phone on chat on my phone, and then like actually last night I was working on my car changing the spark plugs. I had this little issue come up. I asked chat about it, and then I realized I needed a tool, so then I asked chat to, hey, look that up for me, and right there, it pulls it right up on my phone, and so you didn't need to do anything outside of chat. And so it's still kind of a question mark to me. Do they have enough of a value proposition to get a lot of traffic to some of these new
Mm-hmm.
browsers? And that will probably come with time. I think it's a little bit like, let's say, the AI agents, kind of thing, in terms of being new and not super competent yet, but likely to get so soon. So, how about
I
you,
think
Alex?
it's interesting because there are people who will not have the same browser consistency across their devices. So like if you're
Mm.
using Chrome on one, but you're using the ChatGPT browser on the other, that could be a little bit of an issue. I think you want to have sort of a consistency across whatever you're using so that you have the translation where it's like you're signed into something here, you're able to sign in over here. You copy something here, you're able to basically see it over here. That is a nice change. The other thing to note is most people are in their browser ecosystem already. So they're already in Chrome or they're already
Yeah.
in Microsoft. I don't know if the cost of switching is worth it for some of these AI browsers like Perplexity or the ChatGPT browser. It just seems like it's a from what you get from the add-on of going to that browser compared to what you can get just by using the model already in Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge or any of those. It doesn't seem like it adds a whole lot to the experience, but it
What
probably
does it
gets a
add? What do you
lot.
think it does add? Like, what do you get, would you say? What's sort of like the biggest benefit of using an AI browser at this point?
Basically, think of it like you're using AI for everything you're doing on how you interact with Chrome. So like it's able to have a little bit more consistency across sites and things like that. But it also comes with the drawbacks that you're using AI for all of that. So it's like you're using full AI search rather than just like, you know, AI search when you need it. You're using AI search all the time. And there are things that creates where AI doesn't search the same as you might want it to sometimes. you
Hmm.
know it's like if AI is basically um one, you don't have the same permissions and control over it, so you might type something in like a search, but ChatGPT actually won't surface that knowledge, or it can't surface that same knowledge because of the way that the model is built with like certain things that you can't ask about. I mean,
Hmm.
like if you asked it for which we want to some degree, like if you asked it how to build you know a weapon, you don't want it to give you the instructions of how to build the weapon. But on a Google search, you might be able to get a little further with that than you
Hmm.
can with an AI search.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like another thing that they're trying to kind of they're part of the value proposition is the I call in my mind like the copy paste problem of like, okay, I did this, I got some insight from my AI chat question, and now I have to copy and paste it somewhere else. And so I think this kind of gets more into maybe we were kind of just talking about like it's more like a play for like everyday consumers, but when it comes to like enterprise or like business operations, like if you have it already integrated in your suite, like if you're all in Microsoft and you use Microsoft Word and whatnot, and then you're using Edge and then you have Copilot there, it kind of like the like, okay, I don't need to like take what I had in this browser tab and then copy and paste it to a different browser tab or to a different program.
Hmm.
It's kind of trying to like unify the ecosystem there. But yeah, I think your point is really valid, John, that like I don't know what the numbers are on this, but I'd imagine consumers are probably pretty sticky to whatever browser they already use,
Hmm.
and why they use it. And they're like, if this works, then yeah. And then also it's like, yeah, do I need an AI powered chat to answer, you know, every question that I have or every single thing I'm trying to look up? Like maybe I'm just trying to get the URL of the website right that I know I want to go to. I don't know the exact URL, but like, do I need a whole AI query to figure that out for me?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if it sort of ties in with a little bit of what you're both kind of saying in terms of having a complete sort of memory of all the stuff we're doing, rather than because like
Hmm.
I've noticed that chat on my phone is getting a lot better at if I say, hey, what was I talking to you about yesterday or whatever or whenever. And
Hmm.
it's pretty good
Hmm.
now. Sometimes it gets it wrong, but then I can usually say, no, I don't think it was that. And it'll, oh yeah, you were talking about this. And so just knowing everything, whether it's your browser history and all your data, and you're getting to that point to where AI is going to have a complete memory of everything we've done and can maybe be more helpful in some ways. And obviously, there's other issues that might raise, but I could see how that could be pretty helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
All right. I think we'll head on over to some robotics. So, the reason why we talk about robotics, I know this is an AI uh, show, but robotics are kind of the brains of AI. So it's kind of like these large language models actually do become the brains that sit behind the brains that sit inside the robot. So one robot that kind of got a lot of attention was Neo here. Now, this is Neo by a company called 1X. There's also Figure. There's also Tesla. And then there's Boston Dynamics. There's a couple other ones as well. But
Agility Robotics, that's the Oregon
Agility,
company.
yes,
Let's
down in
make,
Salem
yes,
with
make
Digit.
Yeah,
So there's a good amount to be thinking
there it
about.
is.
Oh, there's
That's
Digit
Digit
right there.
Yeah.
So there's a good amount to be thinking about with robotics here, and just sort of how it evolves and how this becomes integrated. They came out with a consumer-facing robot, which is something that's new. So they're saying 20,000 to buy the robot, or you could rent it for I think it was 500 a month, but it's not available until next year, and you're giving up a lot of your, you're going to you would have a robot in your home that does tasks and stuff, which is interesting. Um, and this is more to kind of put it on your radar that robots, I don't think it's anywhere near ready. I don't think you should buy this thing at all. Um, but I do think you should put it on your radar and think that, oh, we might actually be living in this world in the not so distant future where we do have robots doing a lot of things. And so, what do you guys think about this? Have you heard much about Neo, and where do you think Neo's going, or the other robots?
Did you say you don't get it? So if you order one now, when did you say it arrives? Not until next year sometime?
Yeah, it's not
Is
till
that the?
next year that you would get it.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I
well,
mean, I think it's as far as like the personal, like physical assistant robot, it definitely seems like it's early stages and like
mhm.
not quite there yet. But I think like there's a long history of using like machine learning and reinforcement learning specifically in robotics. Um, and yeah, like using large neural network models for
Mhm.
kind of decision making. And like some of the first examples I think of is like self-driving cars, where it's like seeing input, constantly running models to decide, um, what the next like safest move is. So this has been around for a while, but yeah, it's definitely like I feel like kind of we're uh, similar to how like the Chat GPT started this like entire hype train for AI and large language models. It's like, oh, now let's this technology has been around, but now that people are excited about it, let's let's put it into what we can kind of like think and see as like tasks that robots could be doing, like exactly like you were saying, like in the Jetsons, like having like the robot come and do the laundry and wash the dishes and like do the stuff you don't want to do. So I don't know, I kind of see it more of like an embodiment of these like ideas. I think as far as like actually using AI in robotics, there's probably much more like use case specific and probably better working examples out there, like more like in kind of more like manufacturing and other parts of the world that we don't see in our general house. But I think it's an interesting way for people to like start conceptualizing it and kind of like start thinking about the idea that robots might be doing more and more work for us.
And the
Yeah.
important thing to note about Neo here is actually all the stuff that was shown in that demo, for the most part, except for like one thing where it opens the door for the person, that's all actually teleoperated. So there is kind of this intermediary point in robotics where you can have the teleoperated robot where someone, actually a human, is operating it just remotely.
Yeah. And I think that obviously that's going to change. And as Addie's saying, the natural language models are going to be super helpful in terms of just being able to talk to your Neo robot in the future and ask it to do certain things, and it'll understand you just like chat does on the phone now and stuff. Um, yeah, so that's really kind of driving a lot of this acceleration, and there is there is a lot of momentum behind it. I think back to when Jensen Huang from NVIDIA was doing that big keynote at the CES conference early in the year. He came on stage, and I think there was 18 different humanoid robots, all from these different companies from around the world. And then just this week or last week, it was announced where the Tesla board and shareholders voted Elon Musk $1 trillion pay package, and all these things have to happen where Tesla has to become an $8 trillion valued company. And the only way that's going to happen, and the way that it's talked about, is that it's a giant robotics AI company, and that they're, selling literally millions of their humanoid robot and things like that, right? So there's no question that that is the future that a lot of people are working toward and planning on. And of course, there's some question of sort of when we're going to get there, but I think we definitely will get there. Just a little bit of a question of how soon it takes, how quickly it takes, right? How long it takes.
And one of the things that stood out to me was like the teleoperation. When you think about that ability to operate a humanoid robot remotely, that might actually unlock some capabilities in the midpoint between where we have fully automated robots. I mean, I think telemedicine and stuff like that, like remote diagnostic stuff, elder care, assisted living that could be done remotely from a bot or something like that might be interesting. Checking in on a factory or something like that, like it's just an inspection type of thing. We're just like, what's going on at some remote location? You're able to check that out. Disaster response and things like that. I can see just a huge application for just remote operation, this kind of teleoperation aspect of humanoid robotics.
Yeah, another area of robotics is we can think about even drones and things, right? And I imagine we'll soon have drones with legs, so they'll land and where places they can't necessarily walk, or wheels, I suppose, or something like that, right? And yeah, and they won't be humanoid, but they'll definitely be robots. So, lots
Have
of
you
it.
guys heard the quote, every machine that moves will be a robot in the future?
No, but yeah, I can see it.
I can see it as well. I'm curious, we got planes, trains, automobiles, all those fun things. So it'll be wild to see all those things become robots, but
Yeah.
and a little scary sometimes, but it is sort of the future that we're building toward.
Yeah.
All right. Anything to add on that before we move over to the Apple deal?
No.
Okay. So this one is small but worth noting, which is that Apple is nearing a deal to pay Google $1 billion annually to power the new Siri. So they're going to make a new Gemini or some version of the Gemini model, and basically that will be potentially. This hasn't been finalized yet, but potentially that will be what powers some of the Apple devices, some of the AI behind the scenes in the Apple devices. And so right now, if you use your AI on your iPhone, if you're using ChatGPT from Siri, it's actually going to, you ask Siri a question and Siri's going to say, can I ask this to ChatGPT? Because Siri's not that good. It's not going to be able to handle that response typically. And so any responses it can't handle, it goes to ChatGPT. And so that's currently what happens. And then it sounds like that might end up being a Gemini model that exists somewhere in that loop now. So that's not something to worry about, or really, there's nothing really to worry about, but it's something to keep in mind that Gemini is coming to Apple devices at some point, most likely.
So,
And Siri will hopefully get much better soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to ask Siri the other day, like, because someone was saying something to me about watching the game, and I was like, Siri, what sports games are happening today? I'm not super in the loop on these things. Siri couldn't answer it at all, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask AI, and that was, super easy. Got the answer right there. Um, Yeah, so I think it's interesting, but it also kind of makes sense. Like Apple really hasn't been in the business of developing large models, and Google like has been in the business of this like really from the beginning, and like was some of the first creators of some of the first large language models ever. So they have like quite the company infrastructure built out for model and algorithm development. So I think Apple's like making kind of I don't know if I would say like whether it's smart or not smart play, but I think it just makes sense that they're like, okay, this is not what we do as a company, and we're going to work with a different company to have them do it for us. But, still kind of sticking with it being proprietary and it only running within their devices and their ecosystem.
Is it a bit of a blow to OpenAI if they're switching from ChatGPT? I haven't really read too much about that, but
Yeah, it's unclear where this will fit in the stack because how Apple's setting it up is they want locally run AI, and then for things that the locally run AI can't handle, then it goes to Apple's private cloud compute, which maybe the Gemini model sits in there and it
Mhm.
also sits on device. Um, and then from there, if neither of those can handle it, it goes to ChatGPT and uses ChatGPT. So I don't know where it's going to fit in that. It still might actually just reference ChatGPT for
mm,
things it can't actually handle, but I don't know.
okay.
It'll be
So
interesting to see.
ChatGPT may still have a piece of the action kind of thing, it sounds like. But mhm,
Possibly. But it seems weird to have Gemini, and then like ChatGPT. So I don't know if they'll keep that infrastructure set up that way.
mhm, yeah.
The
Yeah.
other piece, though, is that this is like the front door for most users as far as what they interact with quickly to get things done as a voice agent. So it'll be very interesting to see how people start to use this, and if this becomes like a paradigm shift of how people interact with their phone. They get a lot more used to talking to it rather than uh, you know using using their fingers to just type everything on it.
Mhm,
Yeah, totally. And I think yeah, kind of yeah, that like like more integration, more personalized, more like already in your hand play for sure. And then getting to kind of like you were saying, like trying to do as much of the info retrieval or whatever it is locally, like on the device, and making smaller, more efficient models. Definitely another industry trend we're seeing in when we talk about Kimi K2 later,
mhm,
that'll come up again.
mhm.
I think we can jump right into it now. Is it okay, so wait, is this the right website? I was trying to pull it up and I wanted to make sure. It looks like ChatGPT, and I was surprised because I thought it was a local model. But I think they may just have a version that's out there as well that you can access on the web.
Yeah, so it's this like open source. Um, yeah. So they do have one that you can use on the web, and then it's also this like open source model that you can download and use yourself and run on your own infrastructure. Um, I'm looking at the like just kimik2.com kind of has these bar charts of how the model performs against benchmarks. I think that might be a good one if you can pull it up.
All right, I'll go around for it. Let's see.
'Cause that's really kind of the big selling point here is that this new model has come out, kind of similar news to when DeepSeek came out on the market. It's another model that performs just as good, if not a little better, or maybe a little worse than some of the other foundational models like Claude, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, on these benchmarks, which we've talked about. We've talked about benchmarks before, and kind of like the issues and strengths and weaknesses, and how we're judging models using these benchmarks. But when it comes to like, they're really trying to push that like with agentic competitive coding, tool use, math and STEM, really on kind of like pushing on the agent side of things. Like this model is performing like pretty much as good or better than the foundation models, but it uses far less compute and it's far less expensive of a model to run than these like ChatGPT Anthropic models. And so the model itself has a different kind of architecture that it uses called mixture of experts, um, which is basically saying like whenever like a certain input is in there, it's only using certain experts or certain like parts of the model that are relevant instead of like running the entire all the different parts of the model that on each query. And so the model itself has like a trillion parameters, which is a lot of parameters. But for each one, only about like it says like 32 billion are used per token. So yeah, it's basically like running at twice like the speed and efficiency with lower demands and as they're claiming no loss in performance. So it's I think this is really big news for again kind of like the way that these like tech giants and like big AI companies are moving have kind of been in this like throw everything at the wall technique where it's like let's make the biggest most powerful model we can with as much data we can and it ends up being great, you know, it ends up being able to do so much super powerful, but you know all of that context and all that weight obviously isn't relevant to every single query you're putting through yet as the models are right now. You know it's kind of like putting all that power into every single query and every single part of the input. So yeah, so with this like different type of algorithm design, it's much more efficient and you're not needing those like really premium chips or like really big like infrastructure investments to run this. So tying this back into kind of like small businesses, this is again kind of working down those barriers for companies to be able to kind of harness and use this technology themselves without having to invest in like a lot of cloud space or a lot of like on-prem infrastructure. And as well, they're also making the model like pretty open or totally open source and like having pretty permissive and open licensing. So it's kind of like anyone can use this. And yeah, it's definitely I'm interested to see like how this changes, especially in like enterprise context, where it's like a company can be like, okay, we're just going to pay for an enterprise seat for ChatGPT or Claude, you know, and maybe build custom GPTs for specific work tasks, or you know, have it as something that our employees can use internally, versus like, oh, okay, we can you know we can use one of these open source models that runs super efficiently and you know can kind of do it ourselves versus like paying ChatGPT or Anthropic. So yeah, and I think it's also kind of echoing the big industry shift towards agentic workflows, basically like models doing things instead of just like answering questions and like taking steps. And so that's really another thing too that Kimmy is focused on versus like DeepSeek, a similar type of release where it's like showing that it performs just as well, but it's way less expensive to run. But yeah, Kimmy is like same, and it's doing like these like stepwise processing and completing tasks even better as well. So yeah, I thought that was one of those interesting things this month.
So if you're a small business and you were using Kimi, then do you, how do you pay for, even though it's a lower cost, what are you actually paying for then in that case? Or would you be paying for?
Yeah, so it looks so I'm literally clicking through the website here. So first of all, they have, you know, if you want to use it like online, like in a browser, like you use ChatGPT, they're charging $10 a month. So they're already trying to like cut price wise. But if you want to just like download the model and run it, you're just paying for your compute and your infrastructure to do that, which maybe you already have. So yeah.
Addie, if
Yeah.
you want to share your screen, you should be able to.
Ooh.
Uh,
I don't think I can because I'm doing my video on my phone
oh,
and
okay.
my computer's
Fair
right.
enough. If you
Yeah,
send me the
sorry.
link, I can also pull it
Yeah,
up
yeah.
too.
I just clicked it. Yeah, I'll text it to you. I'll send it to you.
But yeah, it's also interesting. I think one of the things to think about if you are going down that route of downloading and running something locally, you do need the correct compute infrastructure. So you need something big enough to run it. Um, but then once you have that set up where you can run it locally, you are able to effectively it. You have typically lower latency, so it takes less time to get your response back, and it's less cost because you're not basically doing the whole sending it out to ChatGPT and having it come back. or sending it out to any other LLM that's hosted on a server somewhere else. The
Yeah.
the one caveat is that you are hosting it locally. So two things, you have to basically have that proper setup, and if new models come out that are better, you will have to update it yourself and make the changes to get it running on that new system.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's still not like, super user friendly. It definitely still requires, at least some sort of DevOps, how to kind of set up a model like this to run locally. But I think the race to making it like super user friendly to do this is going, and we're
Mhm.
gonna get in that space too. Like one example is like I talked with a nonprofit that helps really vulnerable people, and their data is just so absolutely so sensitive. The locations of their buildings are not even known by anyone. They're not on any map. And though they'd love to use AI, they're like, it just would never make any, like, we could never have anyone using any browser based thing, and data could not be sent to any external thing. But, they're considering, like, okay, if we bought, a piece of hardware that could, like, physically sit where we are and then run a model on it, then we could use it. But, then there's like, okay, at this stage, to do that, they still need the talent to be able to engineer that correctly. But I think as models like this come out and become more efficient and can run on like smaller and smaller things, that initial spend of like what sort of hardware would we buy to achieve this is going to become lower. And then I think too the knowledge gap of like how would I set something like this up is also gonna shrink as well.
Mhm.
The data privacy piece is huge. I mean, I think
Hmm.
that's going to be a big driver of a lot of the local models and things like
Yeah.
that. When you're trying not to send it all the way across, it's either latency or like or you're building some public facing product that you want. Um, but typically, for most small businesses, locally hosted was probably not going to be the thing. You're probably just going to want to use your ChatGPT or Gemini or any of those Copilot, um, the more major ones that are already tied into your where you probably store your files. But for certain applications, something locally hosted will be probably pretty effective. And someone's going to
Hmm.
make it way, way easier for you to do it down the line, probably too,
Yeah.
than it is currently today.
Yeah, I played around a little bit with Kimmy yesterday after Addie, you said that, it's pretty interesting. And I was very impressed with the responses it was giving to my questions and things like that. It also looked, I was just in the browser, it looked like maybe it's kind of got a bit of a subtle advertising model there, maybe at the bottom there. I think that's what those were, maybe some ads or something like that. But yeah, maybe they're, even even not locally hosting it, but just running it from a browser, if they may be more competitive than some of the others. Plus, if it really is taking a lot less energy, I know so many people are concerned about that with these
Hmm.
models and the energy and the water usage. Yeah, I did a little talk yesterday at the University of Portland around AI. This was for some alumni that were like 60 and older, so a little bit of different audience. It was actually interesting to them, but a number of them came up to me afterwards and said they don't like using AI because they know that it takes gallons and gallons of water and stuff. And of
Hmm.
course, nobody. It's pretty hard to actually nail down what usage takes, and
Yeah.
it depends on what you're doing. And there was also someone else that's working in the energy sector, and he was saying too that very concerned about it. He even said, I assume this is true because he said he was an energy person, but even here in Portland, in the Pacific Northwest here, you sort of assume with all the dams and some wind power and that kind of stuff. But anyway, he said that like 60% of our electricity is generated from fossil fuels, even here, kind of thing, which
Hmm.
was really surprising to me even. And he was saying that based on the projections of the giant Stargate kind of data centers, that's gonna really go up. And it's probably going to happen anyway, but maybe it doesn't really need to if we get seeing more of these kind of models.
Yeah. And I think one thing that gives me hope too is that um the kind of like environmental impact like scales directly with cost. So
Mhm.
yes, we're spending these
Mhm.
natural resources, but it also costs money. So cheaper models, you know, are
Mhm.
also going to cost less resources naturally. So
Mhm.
those two things are aligned, which makes me hopeful.
Mm-hmm. And it depends very widely on what you're doing too. Like for anyone who's not using the model because they're worried about the environmental impacts, maybe you don't do heavy video generation like where you're generating like a full length movie. But if you're generating just text and things like that, back and forth, yeah, that's very small in terms of the actual impact by comparison to images and video and things like that, which are much
Hmm.
bigger. And coding and things like that, where you're actually building full apps and things. So, I think there's levels to that, and also as it gets more efficient, there's basically there are papers going back from like a long time ago where people looked at the internet usage and like computers and early computers and said, "Oh man, if everyone wants to use early computers, it's going to basically take so much energy that we won't be able to do it." And it's like, yes, that was for early computers, and then they got better. We're seeing a lot of the similar things with AI as it gets better and we go down that cost curve in terms of efficiencies and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
All right. So, on to some user question or listener questions. So, these came out of the Annovation community, asked around and said, "Hey, we're doing this monthly AI update. What questions do you have for us?" And they came up with some really good ones.
Mm.
All right. So, question 1. We got, how can small businesses use AI to enhance rather than erode human relationships with clients and team members?
Hmm. This is a good one, and I think kind of goes back to a different conversation we had about how AI is getting better and better at taking away kind of those small, menial, repeatable tasks that can free up humans and resources to actually have more of those actual human connections. So yeah, I think trying to make it specific in like the small business context is like thinking of like automating boring stuff so that you can spend more time doing your people facing stuff is kind of my first thought.
Yeah, and I think to the degree you can do things like say that, you know, we have a culture that values our employees, our people, our customers, and human relationships. And so, for example, that would translate into as we bring AI into our organization, we are not going to lay anybody off due to AI efficiencies that come in. And,
Hmm.
that's a hard thing potentially to say for some business leaders. But be creative. Think how you can become more efficient, and maybe you do have to redeploy some people if you need less people doing certain things because AI is doing more of it.
Yeah.
But those kinds of things can help too, and yeah, to get people to experiment more with AI and really have that sense that okay, this is we're gonna walk the talk of our values and have those kind of policies in place.
Yeah, totally. That's such a great point, John. And I think it really takes this like even bigger picture thinking. Sometimes I call it like level three thinking of like, okay, oh, this is so cool. We can use this technology to automate this process or make us more efficient here. But that is kind of limiting. You could think of like, okay, we actually already have these resources or these people doing this task. What could we have those people with those skills doing if they didn't need to be doing this thing at all? And like thinking bigger picture, how could we be more innovative? What could we do with more freed up time and more efficiency, and having that actually be the first question, and then the question be like, oh, okay, now let's get into the details of how we're gonna make this thing come around, but having that like bigger picture vision from the get-go.
Yeah, step 1, find your efficiencies and get more time. Step 2, use your time to basically be more human. Use technology to be more human. That's kind of always my that's one of my go-to sayings now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna keep on
Yeah.
saying it. Basically, just as you get more time, how do you reuse that time? If you have a 10% efficiency and your staff have 10% more time, um, maybe you use that time to call your clients. Maybe you use that time for a team meeting where you guys actually do more team building activities, connect better. There's all kinds of ways that you can use the extra time to be more human rather than use the extra time uh, to just, I mean, I guess just you take more profit out of the business. So,
Yeah. Yeah, another thing I think to keep in mind too, and maybe try to communicate if you can. So in the talks that I give to different groups, whether they're business folks or other groups as well, I've been asking now for really for the last couple of years in different talks I've done. I usually ask like, okay, how many people are using AI? And more people are using it. Although I will say in the talk that I did yesterday, where they're the 60 plus crowd, including some quite old, there was less there. But setting that aside, and then I follow up with the question of, for those of you who are using it, how does it impact your job satisfaction? Do you enjoy using it? Does it diminish my job satisfaction, or does it no impact? And almost 100% of the people that say they're regular users say they enjoy using it because it does solve problems for them and take on some of the work that they didn't like to do as much as they used to do, kind of thing. So, when you can get a win with AI, it's rewarding. It's kind of fun. So the people that aren't using it and are kind of worried about exactly, well, how do I use it? What do I use it for? I think if they can understand that, well, hey, you experiment with it, you start practicing with it, develop some skills, find some use cases. If you're like most people, you're going to find that rewarding, and that's going to increase your job satisfaction.
all
So,
right, on to the next one. And one of the things I'll add there too, just in terms of how you can become more human, is look at things like personalized marketing and also like AI to help you get context on a client before a meeting and things like that. I think those are all things that can also help you build that connection just as direct applications of AI. All right, so question 2. What are you most excited or concerned about regarding the way AI might reshape trust and authenticity in professional relationships?
it's easy to be concerned, I'll say that.
Yeah. This is a Go ahead. I've been thinking about trust a lot in the AI context. I feel like I'm crafting up a little blog post or LinkedIn post or something
Oh,
about this. But yeah, the excited for, concerned for about reshaping trust and authentic in professional relationships. I think that the trust question is really similar to um, kind of how we like have built trust in all the different types of technology before. And the issue is that technology is becoming more and more invisible, as in like things that we can't see. And so, and that also has just been a trend through time of like, okay, maybe we have like a machine. I can see the machine is like cutting this thing for me, and that's like working. I'm like, I can see it, and I trust that it's doing the right thing. But so much of what technology does for us now is unseen, and AI is like that to an even higher degree. And so, um, being able to trust things, I think, takes time. Like, we trust that our when we send a text to someone or send an email to them, like that the message gets delivered, but like we don't know what happens. Where does it go? What happens in the middle? We can't see that. It's hard to even wrap our mind around that or explain it. And AI is that to an even higher degree. So I think that this is a barrier. Gaining trust is in around AI is like a similar problem to ones that we've had in the past. And I think the like way to get around that is to think about it more or like have be able to have outputs that you can like see and feel more. So when it comes to like professional relationships and actually like seeing things happen of like, okay, yes, I used AI for this, but I did this thing and it works. So that's kind of the thing there is like it's got to work, and it's got to work in a way where you can see it and feel it and like feel the impact. So I don't know. I think this also comes back to conversations that we've had where lots of people want to adopt AI, but people are having a hard time really finding that value proposition and really like seeing the results. And so I think trust is going to be hard to build until those results start coming through and we can see and feel them.
I think people really need to be authentic, just in general, like be authentically yourself, especially in the age of AI. do the things that showcase your humanity. You know, talk about the things that showcase your humanity. Like Addie, we know you have cats and you love those cats. That's like,
I
but that's
do.
something that is like
Not
authentically
bad
to
again.
your human
Yeah.
character. Um, and so I think those things that showcase yourself and build that the human connection as well as the professional connection as well. So both of those two things, the human and the professional, I think are incredibly important. But you want to also have those things that build the human uh, thing that are authentically you, and don't build a facade that is not you.
Hmm. Yeah, and a little bit of a slightly different version of this question of trust, makes me think about the relationship between a faculty member and a student, like on campus here, and kind of the trust there um, between obviously what students are doing with AI, and I know from talking to students that it's getting challenging because like our university, like many, it's up to the faculty member to kind of say how AI can be used in class. And we had actually a lunch of faculty members a week or so ago. We were talking about kind of this issue on campus, and one of the professors was saying that there was a student that she didn't want them to use AI for this particular assignment, and it was very apparent to her that the student did, and then she kind of called the student out on it, and it just totally wrecked their relationship. The student came in and you know actually denied that they were using it because apparently they didn't. I don't know. And she still kind of quizzed her over the material. Anyway, long story short here, but now when the student comes in, the professor was saying the student won't look at the professor anymore. And so that's an example where, and this could happen in your professional relationships too. If what is the understanding or the expectation about how a might be used in that relationship? And if
Yeah.
somehow that gets violated, that can really be damaging to that relationship. So yeah, so it's important and yeah, to think about. And I think so. So in some ways, just being able to communicate how AI is used, and as AI does become more and more beneficial, in many cases, that'll be a good thing, and your clients or your customers will appreciate it if you're using AI in a way that adds value. And there's a lot of ways, obviously, that can happen, and being transparent in the use of that AI, I think is really a key thing there. So.
I think about it too as like every single organization has their own creativity that's inspired by the humans that work there. Leaning into that creativity rather than trying to hide it because you want to be you want to present this kind of very non I don't know. There's some brands that just feel robotic. And I feel like leaning into the creativity and the humanity behind the brand is important in today's day and age. And just especially important, just
What do you
given where
think
we're at.
about, do you either of you have opinions? I know I'm blanking on the name of the company, but there's companies now that are adding basically kind of watermarks to human generated content so that if you see this, that then it's human generated and that kind of thing. Do you think that that's going to be helpful in this trust question? There were several people that came up to me
Yeah.
talk yesterday that said, how do I know if what I'm seeing is
Oh
real or
no.
not? And I'm like, you don't really at this point, or even if I'm
Yeah.
talking to somebody, you're less and less you're going to know, at least right now. But
No, totally. That's such a good question, and I think this is not a piece of news we talked about because this is doesn't really have much to do with business, more pop culture. But I don't know if y'all been kind of following in the music industry, like what's been saying, like an AI generated country song hit the top of the charts maybe last week, and people were like maybe not so excited about that, and then I think maybe someone in response, Rosalia, came out with an album, and a big part of her like PR and announcement was like, no AI was used on my album. My
mm,
album was made by me. It was made by other musicians, other artists. Like technology, like didn't touch this besides like producing, recording the tracks, and like making it happen that way. And so really, she like put her like her personal brand stamp, like trust emblem that like she did this and it was her own creative work. Um, Obviously, I think to kind of bring like we were talking about like authenticity through, and I think also to be like this is we can consider this of a higher quality. This is like something a human made that's music, and this is why we enjoy music because it's like ways that humans are creative and think through and process through things, and you know, so Yeah, super interesting in this like AI is getting better and better at emulating human things that we can do humanly. But yeah, where does that kind of like guarantee or like trust come from? Like, do we say it? Do we put a watermark on it?
Hmm.
Um, how important is it to your audience? I think to music listeners, at least, I think that's pretty important that like this music was made authentically. Maybe it isn't for some context. Maybe you just like need something to put on in the background and whatever. That doesn't matter. Elevator music,
Hmm.
but yeah, definitely this like how do you like trust and verify that is I think yeah becoming a harder and harder thing
Hmm.
to do as AI gets better and better.
Yeah,
And
yeah. There
that's
was
one
a
of the
survey
things.
that just came out that said 97% of people couldn't tell the difference between the AI generated music, and I just happened to see that. I'm not sure all the
Hmm.
details, but it was 97%. But yeah, go ahead, Alec.
Yeah.
We're gonna run out of time if we keep going down that rabbit hole, but we
Oh
should do
yes.
it on a
Yeah.
on another one in the future. And if anyone needs wants more about the AI slop debate, we had a great AI slop debate on our last monthly AI update. So go check that out. It's the one for October. It was wonderful, and we cover that in more detail, and we will cover this again because it is a reoccurring topic that will come up again and
Hmm.
again. The thing is, it's like, what is AI? Because on this podcast, we're going to use some AI tools and things like that in the background that clean up our audio and things like that, make us sound a little bit better in terms of mic quality. Those are technically AI tools. There's all kinds of AI tools. The magnetic mask in Final Cut is an AI tool. There's all kinds of AI tools that exist out there, so that are used to help create creative works. So it'll be interesting to see how that debate evolves and where we put that line. All right, question 3. If you had to predict one underrated capability of AI that will quietly change how we live or work by 2030, what would it be?
I have one.
Go for it.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll
This
say
question's for John.
I'll say memory.
Mm.
I think that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I recently listened to a podcast of, from like a brain researcher on memory and talking specifically about like episodic memory of like, do I remember exactly what I had for lunch
Hmm.
3 weeks and a day ago? It's like, no, and maybe that's okay. But if I needed to know, yeah,
Hmm.
I think we'll be able to have access to that for sure. This is such a great question. The underrated capability. I don't know. My first thought is kind of going back to like the like laundry robot. You know, I think kind of like simple everyday tasks hopefully will be easier for a lot of people and that might be maybe underrated for people that are like super able-bodied, but for people that aren't, I think that can be a big positive change as well.
Oh yeah, and again, it's 2030. I was thinking I misread it as next year, but
Oh,
2030. Yeah, this is 5 years out. Yeah,
yeah.
memory's going to be
I'm
next year. Robotics and stuff,
yeah.
maybe 5 years. But
Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to mind, yeah.
Yeah, and I think people can't quite comprehend what this how fast this future could come up. Like, thinking 5, 10 years. Uh, and then the piece, I agree with you, John, on memory. I think that's a huge, huge one that's going to be very important for people. The other thing, so that I don't copy you, I think is just what you can do, um, what you can get, what like one person can do. I think people underestimate what one person
Mm.
will be able to do. I mean, you're we're kind of moving out of this age of information where you had to figure out how to get all the information for things. Now it's sort of like, what do you want to build? And just having that idea of, and kind of having something you want to build and then being able to move forward with that, um, so it's basically unconstrained. Uh, that I think is incredibly underrated. And just I think of the amount of entrepreneurs and people who could actually start the thing that they want to start and actually build that thing to its entirety is so underrated right now. I think we're going to see a golden age of entrepreneurship. So if you have something you want to build, start thinking about it and start thinking about talking with AI on how you can build it, because I think you will be able to build it.
Mm.
Your limit will not be what you can build, It will be your creativity of what you want to build. All right. Question 4. What skills should thoughtful professionals cultivate now to stay valuable as AI becomes more capable?
Oh, I have an answer. So yesterday I was at the welcome home session for Mount Hood Meadows for all of the ski and snowboard instructors. So it was kind of like a company orientation.
Nice.
In the winter, I teach snowboarding, which I don't think will get automated away anytime soon. But who knows? And one of our big sessions was people skills and professionalism, which in that line of work is pretty much, I mean, there's a couple components of like skills, how to teach someone how to snowboard, how to ski. But the people skills and professionalism is, I think, going to be the biggest thing. And one of my biggest takeaways from that session, which, I think many of us at this, who have been in the professional world have heard a lot of like corporate talks about people skills and professionalism, was really that these are skills and behaviors. They're not just like personality. Like they are things that you can actually work on and study and practice, and that it's something that takes effort versus like, oh yeah, so and so's good with people, so and so's not good with people. But yeah, I think people skills and professionalism specifically are going to be really, really important as AI becomes more capable.
So
John, you want to go?
sure. I mean, I'm sure you may be thinking the same thing as you and I have often talked about this, but this
Probably.
idea, yeah, the sort of the entrepreneurial mindset and
Mm.
yeah, the willingness to kind of try things, experiment, and when things don't work out exactly like you think they are, then you figure out, okay, what do we know from that, and how can we kind of adjust what we're trying to do, and yeah, learn from it, that kind of thing. So I guess that would be kind of a key one, where you're sort of looking for opportunities and thinking about how to, yeah, take advantage of those kind of things.
Yeah, I'd agree with both of you. And then the other piece is just to put a nice bow on it. Don't try to be a better robot. Try to be a better human. I think
Hmm.
that's the piece. It's like you're not gonna out AI. Like, just
Mm.
just be a human because that's what you are, and then figure out how you can amplify your humanity with these AI tools. So
Hmm.
the skills are basically your speaking, your ability to take an idea and move forward with it, your ability to connect with people, and your ability to have care and compassion and solve real world problems. Because there's plenty of real world problems out there. AI is not going to solve all of them. We're still going to need humans that push the ball forward on those. I think just unleash your creativity, unleash you, and be you, and get really good at being you, because that's the thing that's definitely going to be there in the future. All right. Did I skip one? No. Okay. So, last question. What is the most common? Oh, wait, hold on. I messed that. What's the most important question business owners aren't asking about AI yet?
I think I might say, uh, how is it going to change in the coming year, kind of thing. So to try to put them in that perspective of not just thinking about the AI we have today, but are you also thinking about the AI we're going to have tomorrow? So part of the value proposition of using AI today is the sort of competence it's going to give you in understanding AI, and it's going to help you with the next versions that are coming because it's not a static thing.
Yeah, John, I'm totally going to piggyback right off of you there. And similar to kind of what I was talking about before is what I like to call like these level three questions of like thinking bigger. Like, let's really expand our ideas coming back to like entrepreneurial mindset. Like, if we could wave a magic wand and like get rid of all of this like expensive operational overhead, what could we do as a company to get our mission forward? Like, what are those big, crazy ideas that that, we could do if we had more capacity is, I think that's definitely one that business owners are missing.
Yeah, it's basically like if you take your business and think, what's the unconstrained version of this business look like? What does this business look like with where I could just, you know, unlimited power to do what we need to do? Where do we go? What do we do? What do we build? I mean, I think the a lot of business owners aren't thinking of this technology as big enough.
Hmm.
They think of it as little efficiencies and things like that. And how do I get more productive? But it's like there's productivity of doing the same things that you're doing today faster. But then there's entirely new systems of doing something different in a way that you didn't even need to do it. You don't have to. You can reinvent the wheel rather than make the wheel uh, rounder, better, more able to spin. You don't need to make the wheel more efficient. You can reinvent it.
Hmm.
And I think those reinvention pieces, people will reinvent these businesses and think, how can I build them differently? And you want to do that before the entrepreneur reinvents it and comes up with the thing that disrupts your business. It's just the cycle of disruption. So think about how you can disrupt yourself before you get disrupted.
All right.
That is it. So the last thing we're going to do here is roll out the red carpet. What are you guys working on, and what are you excited about for the next month? And where can people find more about you guys?
So I guess I'll go quickly. Working on professional education program in AI here at the University of Portland. So if you're interested in that, we're going to launch in early 2026. It'll be an extended program where you'll implement an AI project for your work or your team. Shoot me an email. I'd love to tell you about that. Hop on a Zoom call, whatever. My email address is my last name down at up, since I'm at the University of Portland.edu. So that'd be awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, like I said, I'm working on remembering how to teach people to snowboard this
Nice.
winter. But otherwise, I'm also working on some workshops specifically around environmental impacts of AI. So
Mm.
that's something that's on my brain right now. And you can find me at my website, cascadiasolutions.ai. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or email me, Addie@cascadiasolutions.ai.
All right. And then I've got AI Fridays every single Friday at 9 a.m. We're covering a new AI topic and breaking it down. And then we are also doing this every single month. So you'll be able to see us next month for our December update as well. If you have any questions or want to get in contact with John or Addie or myself, there will be links in the description if you're watching this later. I don't know if they're there for all the live platforms, but they will be there later. And we hope to see you all next month.
All right.
All right, gonna play us out. I need a little soundboard. All right. See y'all next month.
All right.
If I can do those firework things again. Nope, no fireworks from Apple this time.